I've had the unique opportunity of looking back on my life and realizing that many of the most lonely times of my life were not spent alone, but rather they were spent in the company of people who weren't building me up, people who weren't encouraging, people who didn't share my values, or people who were controlling or manipulative, or in some way were present, but also felt like, in a way, they made me feel even more alone than I would have felt if I was actually experiencing solitude. Because when you're by yourself and you're living in solitude, you can be in control of your personal actions. You can take responsibility for outcomes in your life. You can have a sense of freedom and autonomy to believe what you want to believe, to think what you wish to think, to do the things that you'd like to do, to essentially appraise all of the things in your life which might make you feel inadequate, and then actually do something about those things. If you feel like you need to do something, you can go do it. If you feel like you should do something, you can do it without feeling like someone else is going to perhaps suppress you or punish you or judge you in a way that holds you back. So realizing that sometimes being in a crowd is a lonelier experience than being by yourself is an eye-opening thing, because there's so many people who will chase that sense of always being part of a group, to always want somebody to be there, and to always want to find other people to be around. But then that's something which rings hollow when you begin to realize that your companions actually make you feel even more alone. It's kind of like somebody who maybe has a problem with depression, or they're down in life or something, and then they go out to a bar and they drink, and then they're in a way relieving a certain sense of pain. They're not having to face it, they're kicking the can down the road, but it also rings hollow when you get done doing the drugs or drinking the alcohol or whatever it might be, and then you have to face the reality that your life isn't what you want it to be. So you can be around people who will make you, maybe in the moment, feel a little bit less alone, but if they don't share positive values in your life, they're not going to make you feel a sense of joy. Instead, they're going to just kind of contribute to that feeling that your life isn't going in the right direction, and they are not helping you to move in the right direction either. Now, I also wanted to talk about how something maybe you don't realize when you are kind of caught up in a social scene, and maybe especially if you're younger, you don't realize this. It's how much freedom loneliness, or rather being alone, really gives you. And like I was saying, it's that autonomy to be able to think for yourself, to take responsibility for your actions, to do the things that you would like to do without having to clear it with somebody or ask permission or anything like that. There's a lot of liberty in that, even if it's just being able to essentially review your life honestly and then reach your own conclusions about whether you're doing well or you're not doing well, to have your own sense of what it takes to make you happy in life, what you need in terms of physical things, to really just be able to analyze your life and then figure out where you want to stand and take a position that aligns with your personal ethos in life. Loneliness is often something which we view as a negative thing, but the truth is it does come with a really, really big benefit, and that is the empowerment that being alone can give you. And certainly in life, it's good to have companionship. It's good to not be alone if you can be teamed up with somebody who shares your values and is going to help you to achieve quality results in your life. But absent that, there's a lot of relationships out there where you can hang on to them because you feel like you need them, and you feel like it's better to have something maybe problematic than nothing at all. But the reality is, you will find there's a lot of situations in life where if you do the math and you really think about it, you can do better by yourself than you ever have done in league with somebody who doesn't actually work with you as a team. And, in toxic relationships, I'm just going to kind of deviate a little bit and mention this because it's relevant. In toxic relationships, people will say, well, you need me, you can't do without me. And people will always kind of try to keep you from feeling like you could survive on your own. But the reality is, in many situations, that's a bluff, because you actually, if you really look into it and you really analyze it, you'll find you will do better when you just are taking responsibility for your actions, and you're not continually having to sort of do damage control and clean up after someone else who adds burdens and adds responsibilities without taking their share of ownership in them. And then to the other side of the argument, it's probably important for us to mention that freedom, as much as we love freedom, as much as we talk about how great freedom is, freedom really is oftentimes just another word for loneliness. So just as I could say that having solitude is not necessarily all bad, and sometimes being lonely comes with perks of its own, so you shouldn't view it as a bad thing. I think it's also important to point out the fact that you can look out there and you can say, I want freedom. But do you really? Because sometimes freedom, even with all of its benefits, does not have as much to offer as sharing your life, sharing your experience with others. So I think it's important, no matter what stage you are in life, to look at both sides of this and to realize sometimes loneliness is something that will give you a lot more power and a lot more good than you would realize. So you shouldn't be too frustrated if you find yourself in a season in your life where you're alone. And you also should look at the benefits of spending your life with other people and sharing your experiences with others, even if sometimes people do get on your nerves and sometimes social relationships aren't perfect. It's important to realize that for all of their problems and all of their frustrating elements and things, we are still social creatures, and there's value to be gained from compromising a bit of yourself, not giving up who you are, and that just compromising enough to make room for love and companionship in your life as well, being open to those things and celebrating the good which both of them respectively can offer. Now, of course, there are things we can't control in our life. We can't control what relationships will come into our life or will leave our life fully. Sometimes we can influence it, but we oftentimes don't have direct, full, complete control over these things. So we are left facing loneliness in our life, or sometimes facing situations where we have the opposite of loneliness. We have busyness, and we have all sorts of family obligations, or people who are just kind of always sort of kind of keeping us from feeling like we have as much time to ourselves as we wish. But regardless of where you're at, there's always something you can look at to say, there's a way to win. There's a way to make the most of your situation and to celebrate the good it offers, while being open to the possibility that new things could be around the corner, whether that's leaving behind toxic relationships or perhaps opening yourself to new ones. So try not to be too frustrated if life doesn't quite feel like it's going the way you want it to be going. And also realize that even if things are going quite well, you don't necessarily want things to stay the same forever. Sometimes it's good to be open to change. So, good luck on your adventure, as always. Leave your thoughts. Do you find yourself struggling with loneliness? Do you find yourself feeling like perhaps you didn't want to be alone, but you also feel like you don't want other people in your life either because of the drama that they might cause? Do you find yourself perhaps split between those two conflicting ideas? Love to hear about it. In any case, till next time, thanks for watching.